Inside Microschools.
How I really see this being a benefit to the homeschool industry is it's allowing the parent to teach something they don't understand to the students, but then they're also getting the benefit of learning that as well. It puts you and the children you're working with like on an equal playing field.
No, totally. And I think you hit on something that I think is often overlooked. And one of the big criticisms on homeschooling is like, you're one parent. How could you know everything you need to teach your kids? And yeah, the first thing I point out is like, I don't. There's videos, there's courses, there's these things called books. They've been around for a while. It's amazing how much you can learn from them. Today is Tuesday, May 23rd, and I'm Justin Schell, the host of the Inside Microschools podcast. Today, we're joined by Chris Staffeldt, the founder of The Life Edge. The Life Edge is the source for vetted online courses, coaches, and mentors. So, Chris, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me, Justin. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I'm excited to learn more about The Life Edge. So maybe you could just start off by telling everybody a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so like you said, the Life Edge is the source for vetted online courses, coaches, and mentors. And our goal is to help people learn, grow, and succeed. Now, that could be people from all walks of life. We're really gearing right now towards homeschoolers, parents of homeschoolers, microschools. That's really where we're wanting to focus because we really see a big need coming in that industry. But it's for anyone that's really looking to make a life change. We have so many different vast array of courses. You could learn anything from cooking to coding to self-development, self-improvement. We cover it all. And so really it's just, like I said, a place where people can learn, grow, and succeed.
Awesome. Yeah, so I guess if you could go a little bit more into what does the delivery of those courses look like? Are they, synchronous? Are you doing one-to-one with teachers? Group instruction online? Are they recorded courses? What kind of offerings do you have?
So we have like I said, it's a vast array of courses. What we've done is we've gone through and found people who have their own educational platform, basically their own website with their own content, and they're teaching in their specific niche. That could be real estate investing, coding, sports, you name it. And so what we do is we've just curated them, the high quality courses, the high quality educators, and we also have like life coaches and brand coaches, and we put that all in one space, and we're putting our stamp of approval on it, saying that these guys these coaches, these educators, these people are offering value in what it is that they say they're offering value. Now, how that works is you'll basically end up on our platform. You find a course or a coach that you enjoy, you want to learn from. You just then click over to their website, and you're going to be purchased. All the purchasing is done on their website, their platform. We don't handle any of that, and so you'll just purchase from their website, and then you're going to be going through their course programming, how they have it laid out, whether that's on a Teachify or an email. You get videos sent into your email. Now, some of these vary. There's some of them offer live learning, which is jumping on a Zoom call and there's a group of you, or individual one-on-one learning. It is just there's a wide variance of how everything is taught. A lot of them is a on-demand. So you have all these videos, this educational program that's been recorded into this on-demand format. Then they offered like a once or twice a week Zoom call or live chat, where you then get to interact with other users that are all in the same course that you're on. And then you also get to ask your specific questions to the problems that you're having or the things that you don't understand, so that you're still getting that one-on-one feedback. And so there's just a vast array. So to be able to say that it's just done this way, I would say most of them are done, what would that be? Asynchronous, where you learn as you go. You're in a group of people who are walking at different levels, all trying to learn the same thing. And you'll even get coaching and assistance from some of the other students, because you'll be in a group chat or a group Zoom call or whatever it is, and you may have a question that a student had a month ago or a week ago that they've already learned, and so you'll be getting the answer from the other students who've already accelerated further in the learning process or the education process than you have.
Okay, gotcha. And so you talked about some of the different formats and the different areas from, you said, from cooking to coding. So pretty vast array, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
What do you guys have filters on the website? So if somebody's looking for a certain type of course that covers a certain subject matter, how would they go about finding that?
Yeah, so as of right now, it's built up like a search engine style. So you have the main search bar that when you land on the site, you can just type in whatever specific course you're looking for. And then from there, it's broken down categorically into business skills, life skills, finance, sports, and so you just can break it down into whatever category you're looking for, personal development, and then refine your search from there.
All right. So I don't know if you know, but I'm a homeschool dad, so I'm going to ask some things that are also going to help me try to figure out how to do things better with my kids. So some of this is going to be totally selfish, and hopefully other people will come on and be like, I had that same question. But yeah, so say my I'm using for my 6-year-old. Would there be courses, that would be accessible to somebody who's as young as 6 years old, or would that what's kind of your age range that you're kind of gearing that towards?
Yeah, so right now it's most of the courses are geared towards maybe 8 to 10 and up, because but there are programs on there like Coda Kid, which is designed for anyone from like 3 years old and up, and it is specifically designed to help children learn how to begin coding at a very young age, so that they're like by the time they're 8, 9, or 10, they've already understand CSS or C++ or Python or some of these other languages that they offer. So there are specific courses geared towards kids, but right now we've built the platform for maybe 10 to 11 and up. And some of that is like, you can go online, and this blew my mind when we started looking into it, but you can find coaches for video games. So you could hire a coach if your kid is really good at some video game. You could hire a coach to help them go become a professional video gamer, which is a thing these days, which blew my mind.
I know. I remember stumbling upon that a number of years back, and uh, and then I've seen videos of people playing, and yeah, it is at such a higher level than I used to think I was pretty good at video games, but I no longer do. It's a totally different echelon.
Yeah.
But yeah, and actually they make a lot of good money doing that too. So it's like become a professional sport, just video gaming.
Yeah. So as far as though like some of the sport-based ones and even like a lot of the language-based courses, those are particularly for any age. So it's not like it's geared specifically for adults or children. If you have a kid that's really good at golf, some of these online courses in golf are going to help him at any age, because it starts out as beginner and it works and progresses all the way through advanced and expert levels. So yeah, it does cover a broad range of age groups. But when you start getting into some of the more business or even like the YouTube, how to grow and start a YouTube channel, you probably need to be in that 8, 9, 10-year-old range to really start to grasp some of the concepts that are being taught.
Totally fair, yeah. And then you said it was kind of geared, or you're focusing it on, microschools, homeschoolers, things like that. I can definitely see how I could personalize this for a single one of my kids. Is how might it work if, say, there were 5 or 10 kids in like a small micro school classroom, and they were say the instructor wanted to provide a course about something that they didn't know anything about, so they go on Life Edge, they say, okay, let me find a good course on X, whatever that might be. Maybe it's learning Japanese, I don't know. Is that something that they would be able to provide to that group of kids? How might that work?
Yeah. So how I see that working is just getting even if the parents need to all pitch in together, the course is a couple $100 and you split it up evenly amongst five students, then that course happens when everybody's together, everybody's on that live Zoom call, and everybody can walk through that course together. Obviously, you're going to get people learning at different paces, right? Because that's just regular school, like learning in general.
Mhm.
And so then how I see that working out best is whoever's putting on the class is the one who then facilitates the questions that get brought up regarding from the students of, hey, I'm struggling with this, or I'm struggling with this. And a lot of how I really see this being a benefit to the homeschool industry is it's allowing the parent to teach something they don't understand to the students, but then they're also getting the benefit of learning that as well. And so it's kind of this, I have a whole blog post and a video that I wrote about this, of some of the benefits of bringing in these online courses into homeschool programs, is because you now get to learn, like it puts you and the children you're working with like on an equal playing field, so that you don't have some of that hierarchy that happens when you become a teacher and the student. And so it just allows you to then connect in a whole new way, as far as we're learning this together, and you may understand the concepts a bit more. So some of those questions that the students have, you'll be able to answer it because you're just understanding it. You're a little more advanced in that process, but you get to work up, whether it be something like, hey, we're going to purchase this, start a YouTube channel, and we're all going to go through this course together. And so we learn how to do the research to make sure that we're making videos in our niche. And you could just basically purchase it as a individual, as a group, and go through the whole program together.
Awesome.
I hope
Yeah.
that makes sense. I kind of went a long way around that.
No, totally. And I think you hit on something that I think is often overlooked. And one of the big criticisms on homeschooling is like, you're one parent, how could you know everything you need to teach your kids? And yeah, the first thing I point out is like, I don't. There's videos, there's courses, there's these things called books. They've been around for a while. It's amazing how much you can learn from them. And like, once you learn to read, this opens up a whole pretty much the entire world of things that you could possibly consume. And so, yeah, a lot of the things that I work with, my kids on, I don't know about. And like, I like them. I've always been kind of curious about history. So like my daughter, I'll watch, or, we'll like listen to a history lesson. We have a history curriculum, and they're like 7-8 minutes long for her, just kind of introducing different parts of the world and different points in history. And then I'm like, well, that's cool. And then I'll go on and find like this 6-hour long, deep dive into this ancient civilization. And I'm like, man, this is awesome. So yeah, it's kind of I'm selfishly homeschooling too, because I
Yeah.
find it to be very interesting myself. Um, but yeah, there's all these things that I don't know anything about, and when they ask a question, I'm like, let's go figure it out together. But that really does create a different relationship, and you're curating, and you're kind of co-learning alongside the kids, as opposed to being the authority who's providing all this information down upon those lower on the hierarchy. So yeah, a very different relationship, but one with lots of potential, and one that I think a lot of homeschoolers and microschoolers, people outside the traditional system, get in a way that those who haven't tried learning that way just don't yet. So so I appreciate that you have that perspective, and I can definitely see a lot of potential there.
So that actually comes from just my growing up. I actually didn't grow up homeschooled, but I had probably a good 50% of my friends were homeschooled. And so I got to experience and see how their life was very different. They were off doing very different things. How they learned was different, but their interaction with their parents and the relationship they had growing up with their parents was very, very different than mine. And so that's where a lot of that understanding comes from, of seeing what it can and can't do, just even in my own life.
Yeah, actually, and that may be interesting just to hear a little bit more about your background and how you got into the Life Edge and started on this whole journey. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that too.
Yeah, so I'll give you the short version because the long version we'd be here all day. So I went traditional route out of high school. I actually went into trade school to learn a trade. My dad was in construction my whole life, and I just thought I was going to roll right into construction. And he made me promise at 16 that I would never go into construction. He's like, whatever you do, never go into construction. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go be a welder. That's where, and I'm going to go build custom cars and hot rods.
Oh,
And so
nice.
I went to school to do that, and I became a fabricator, and it was a 9-month trade school. So at age 18, because I started in trade school at 17, so at 18 I was in the job market, and I was growing, I was learning, and I excelled in building cars and did really well because I enjoyed cars. I'm kind of an adrenaline junkie, so I enjoy going fast. And that ended up taking me to a bunch of different shops, and I progressed, and I got to a point where I just didn't like the lifestyle. I've always been able to think very linear, and I can see where things are going. And I was 21 at the time, and I was like, this is not how I want to spend the next 30 years of my life, just by looking at the people around me. So I made a transition and went and became a production welder for a new mom and pop company. And I grew through that company and ended up spending 10 years there, moving up into management, did very well, was making a lot of money, but I realized I still had a lot left to offer at 28, 29 years old, that again, I couldn't see myself linear there for another 20 years. Like it just didn't make sense. And so immediately I started looking like, how can I make just a lateral transition to somewhere else? Well, the problem is I didn't finish my degree because I went to trade school. I wasn't a complete degree, but because I had jobs, I just didn't worry about going back to school and finishing it. So I did what initially I thought was the right route to go. And I went to night school and started going back to college. And I found myself teaching my calculus class because the professor just could not communicate to the students. And I was like, doesn't make sense. I'd spent a year in night school trying to get this degree to then go chase a job that was going to take me another 10 years to just getting to where I already was.
Mm-hmm.
And none of it made sense to me of why I was going to give up another 10 years of my life to be exactly in the same place I was. And so I started looking for a new type of education, a new way to learn, a new way to figure things out. I started a digital marketing business that ended up going all right, made some decent money with that, exited that. And then I found online courses. And so I started taking these online courses, and the course I ended up taking was for finance, and I wanted to move into the world of finance and investing and day trading. And I paid like 10 grand for it. And I learned a lot. I did well. I definitely got my money's worth, but through that process, I learned there was another course that was like $2,500 that I ended up purchasing anyways. And I learned more from the $2,500 course than I did the $10,000 course. And I remember talking to my wife, like, I spent a year and a half vetting out this course, researching other courses, doing as much like proactive research as I could to make sure this was the right way to spend our money. And I still found out later that there was this other course that existed that I had no clue. And so that was where the thought started to caramelize. And that would have been in 2018, 2019-ish. And then I had the idea. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go through, I'm going to find all the best courses, and I'm going to put them in one spot so that people like me who are looking and are trying to learn something new and figure out how to change their life can find it all in one easy area. And so the next day I bought a domain, and here we are today.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think that kind of leads us to the next question, which is like, maybe you can delve a little bit more into your vetting process, because that's definitely a problem I've seen is like, okay, if I'm trying to curate resources as a person who is just searching on a Google search, Japanese language course, and like that's where I'm starting, and I have no way of kind of figuring out which one's better than the other. So how do you do it?
So this is a process that is evolved, and we're actually about to publish this on our website, because we want to be transparent. We want people to know what they're getting when they come to buy anything, or when they're choosing one of the courses or coaches we recommend. And so to start out, do you have a website? A lot of these, not all, but a lot of scams are generally just like a one-page ClickFunnels style website. And so if they don't have links to their social media, and generally if you can't find a main homepage that has an about us, that lists credentials and things like that, I would generally steer away from it. Now, that's not to say I'm painting with a very broad brush, but
Right.
we wanted to offer very high quality courses. And so sometimes we threw the baby out with the bathwater for some of these, because we wanted to make sure that we weren't offering anything that wasn't at what we considered our standards. So that was that's the first thing, is just an initial check. We want to look at it. Is your BS meter going off in any way? Is there something going on where you're like, I should probably look into this a little bit more? And then from there, we're going to go through and we're going to verify your credentials. Do you say you have XYZ credentials? We're going to look into that. Do you actually have that? If you're teaching based off of experience, we have a recruiter that teaches people how to get jobs, how to improve their resume, and was a headhunter and a recruiter for 20 years. Well, we verify that she's been a headhunter and recruiter at these high profile firms for 20 years. So she knows what she's talking about. She doesn't need all these numbers and letters after her name, because she's got 20 years of experience to back it up.
Mm-hmm.
Then from there, we move into, we're building on things. So we started at verifying that you just have a website that we can start to do some research of who you are. That's kind of our home base. And then we verify your credentials, what you say you are, who you say you are. And then we move into reviews, and we start going through public reviews. And we start on Google, and we just kind of cast the really wide net to figure out where are the negative reviews. And we've started to figure out our own system of kind of reading through some of the BS. But we actually try and reach out. If we can find some of these reviews are on Reddit, we'll try and comment back hey, what steps did you take to try and resolve this issue? Or we try and get as much of the story as we can to get a picture. But we've also found that if your review ratio is 75% good or less, and you start getting to where 30%, 40% of your reviews are negative, we found out that we want to avoid those, because they're most likely, where there's smoke, there's fire. And we found that out the hard way. And so then from there, we move into your social media. We start looking through your Instagram, your YouTube, anything that you have that you're putting out there. And we're trying to verify that you actually know what you're teaching about. And then lastly, if we need to, we'll end up purchasing the course or the coaching if we can't get on a call with you like we are right now. And we want to see that there's actually value being added to what it is that you're providing. And then the next thing that we're rolling out is we're actually trying to contact a lot of people that we've sent to these courses and get reviews from them, and actually get the review, because my view and your view on a course may be completely different, because we have different backgrounds, we have different knowledge bases. And so I want to understand how you were treated, how you interacted. And so we're trying to really just start to gather as much data as we can. And we've thrown out a lot of courses that aren't listed on our site that are probably good courses and offer good value. And we're going to have to go back and re-vet out some of those, but we wanted to start with a really high bar before we started to revisit some of the things.
Totally fair. Yeah. So I think, in that process, if I was doing it as an individual, I don't know how long it takes you guys. That would take probably several days per course for me to vet out personally. So that sounds like a huge time savings. So thank you for that. how do you guys make money with that if you're kind of sending people along? What's your business model look like?
As of right now, it's just an affiliate link. It's an affiliate based model. So anytime, and everyone on our platform is not an affiliate.
Mm-hmm.
We have a majority of them are affiliates, but not everyone has affiliates or even wants to be affiliate. That's just not in their vision of their brand and what they want to do. And so say you decide you want to purchase this course on your kid learning how to code, and you go to their website. Well, we've negotiated a percentage. So when you purchase, they're tracking the fact that you came from our platform, and then we get just a piece of that sell.
Awesome. Yeah. So it sounds like a lot of bang for your buck then, from a consumer's standpoint. Yeah, I think I guess the next question is just about kind of remote learning and virtual teaching in general. One thing that COVID did was provide people with a lot of opportunity to explore the world of virtual teaching and remote learning, and a lot of them left with a very bad taste in their mouth. And I mean, there's any number of reasons for that, but I guess how would you say that that LifeEdge provides an alternative to that negative outcome? Like what's the experience that you're hoping that people get, and how are you helping to facilitate that?
Yeah. So with COVID and everyone looking to move to remote learning, you basically had, and a lot of the experiences I've heard from people were just teachers who were used to teaching online and being able to interact with their students in person and have these in class, and being able to interact with these students just said, all right, now we're going to jump on Zoom and we're going to try and do the same thing we were doing, but now we're just going to do it on Zoom and do it digitally. And they weren't experienced. When you go digital, it's a very different world. How you interact with people, how you provide content, how you provide information is very different. And so the courses and the coaches that are on the LifeEdge, a lot of them have been teaching digitally for years. That's how they scale their brand. That's how they've scaled what they've done. And so they've already gone through the heartache of figuring out how do you do a live webinar, and make it interactive where people are actually engaging and getting information. How do you then transfer information digitally over a Zoom call like we're doing now, versus, all right, everyone take out your books and we're going to read through, because it doesn't work the same. Kids now aren't all in the same classroom with the same thing. Everybody's at their home where they're more comfortable. They have all these distractions going on. I'm hungry. I'm going to go make a sandwich. I need to go use the restroom. And so it became, for a lot of these educators, it just became this whole kind of, like, for lack of a better term, a circus of just trying to herd cats. And whereas with the LifeEdge, these coaches, these educators, their whole business model has been online for the most part. There are some of these coaches that were doing in person and still do in-person training and then move to online, but they've developed the model and they've figured out this practice of delivering an education online before even COVID happened. And so they're experienced in this and they understand how to make it work and how to make it an experience. Because when you're paying for a course, if you're not getting what you want from it, you're going to leave a bad review. And for them, that's their business. And so they don't want you not getting what you paid for, not learning what it is that you came to learn, because then you're going to leave a bad review. You're going to have a bad experience. Where with, I think, a lot of the general population of educators that had to move online for COVID, they were getting a paycheck regardless if the kids were having a good experience or not. And so
not a lot of the students had to put up a 5-star review or a 4-star review after each class. There wasn't really that feedback mechanism, huh?
Yeah, there was no way of really tracking it. So if you had a teacher who was maybe mediocre at best in just like their regular day job, and now you take it to where all I got to do is check the box that these kids showed up today, that becomes, and I still get my paycheck, that just becomes a very different ball game.
Yeah, not a very high bar to set. Yeah. All right, I guess probably got to wrap up here in just a minute, but I just want to give you a chance to provide any other thoughts about how you could see this platform being especially beneficial to micro schools, being that we are called Inside Microschools, and our goal is to both provide parents with a look inside different micro schools, but also to help to expand the capabilities of those micro schools. Like, what do you see are the main ways that Life Edge could help to expand the capabilities of micro schools?
Yeah. So how I envision this, and you can feel free to give me any input you have. I've connected and reached out to some of those parents of my friends who did homeschooling. And I've been diving deep into what it is that how we could, if we existed back then, how we could have benefited them. And I see it as a lot of what they were doing initially was prepping and teaching the kids to then end up to test for the SAT to then end up in university. And now the world has shifted quite a bit where not everybody cares that you went to university. They care about whether or not you can do the job, right? Eventually, education leads to you being able to provide value in the marketplace to then get a job and provide for yourself and provide for your family as you grow up. And so how I see this working is as kids start to get into that 8, 9, 10-year-old range, they can start developing these marketable skills to then start figuring out how to learn how to code, how to build a website, how to do marketing, how to use social media, how to do all these things in a way where they can start making money at an earlier age and start running their own business. And I really see this helping to fill the gap for those that don't want to go to university, that want to learn just a marketable skill, that are maybe more entrepreneurial, start and wanting to go out and start their own business. Or you have a child that's just very inquisitive about life and wants to learn a bunch of new things. And today it's about YouTube, and tomorrow it's cooking, and the next day it's about surfing. This gives you the opportunity to allow your child to explore a lot of those things at a much cheaper cost than deciding at 18, all right, now you're going to go into 4 years of learning to get a marketing degree, and we're going to spend 30, 40, $100,000 on this degree. And then at the end, you're like, yeah, I didn't like marketing. And it allows kids to then get this experience into and start figuring out what it is that they really like. And it's at a very, very reasonable cost. A lot of these range from just 50 to a couple $100 up to like maybe $1,000. And then if you want to go advanced, then you get into those more expensive courses once you figure out what it is that you and your kid enjoy. And so the other way was what we talked about a little bit earlier, is just being able to teach something or having somebody else essentially teach, bringing these courses into your micro school and allowing your kids to learn something that you're not an expert at, that you also now get to learn at the same time.
Yeah. I think that's fantastic. Yeah, kind of personalizing it for individuals, offering specialized courses outside of your knowledge base. Yeah, I think those are all huge potentials. And one you also mentioned, that I think kids for a long period of history, usually around the age of like 12 or 13, would start to go apprentice and to learn a skill or trade, and to see if like that was the actual route they wanted to take in their lives. And typically they were limited to their network, which was usually their parents and their friends' parents. But this opens you up to, okay, I have knowledge that I can gain from all these different coaches and all these different mentors. I can apprentice in pretty much anything I'm curious about at a low cost. And if it doesn't work out, then I'll just change. So yeah, I think especially that market that you're talking about with the 10, 12 up through high school, those ages, it'd be especially impactful to say, what are you interested in? Let's check it out. And here's the opportunities you can look through. So
yeah, right now I'm hearing a lot of people and a lot of younger generations say, well, I want to be an influencer. I want to be a YouTuber. I want to do this, a Twitch streamer. Well, put them through the course, spend the $500-600, because maybe as the parent, you're like, yeah, you say you want to do that until you put in the work to do it. So you spend the $400 or $500 and just let them realize for themselves, okay, this isn't what I want to do.
Yeah, that's hugely valuable. I remember when I was in high school, I made one joke to my dad that I wasn't going to go to college. I was going to do construction. And he made his calls to a couple of his friends who were, in the construction business downtown. He's like, you're on the job site on Monday. I got you signed up. So I went and I worked there for a few weeks, and I was like, it was just a joke. But you're right. That is not the track I want to take in my life. I will try different one. So yeah, finding out the things you don't want to do, can be amazingly valuable. So tick those off the list early and move on.
Yeah. So some of the other benefits I see for homeschoolers and these micro schools is that a lot of the courses and coaches actually offer free master classes or like a 2-week or a 30-day free trial. So you can actually go in and get access to the content before you spend the money and put it out there to purchase it, to see if it's something that your child or your students are even interested in before you go and spend a bunch of money and then find out, yeah, we don't really care about learning about that.
Yeah, I think that'd be the biggest thing, for me, is that if I can get on there and just say, like, is this interesting to you, and show them something that I can just kind of get initial feedback on. That would be great for my wallet, and great for my relationship with them, not being like, we have to learn it. We already spent $300. So yeah, no, I'm definitely on board with that. Well, that seems like a great place to end, Chris. Appreciate the chat today. And thanks for coming on the podcast. Again, my guest today was Chris Staffeldt from the Life Edge. Thanks so much, Chris.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks for a great conversation.
Absolutely.